We are feeling more and more unsafe. There's absolutely no question at all about it.
What do you put that down to?
Anti-Semitism, we're being picked on.
I've had cars driving past and shouting out about being Jewish and things like that.
We've had eggs thrown on the synagogue here, but it's not something we call the police every time because otherwise we'd jam up the switchboards.
Moshe screams out, "Stop, stop, leave him alone." The guy punches Moshe in the face, knocks him out cold, and kicks him in the head.
In the summer of 2014, conflict between Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza erupted in 50 days of devastating war. Thousands of Palestinians and scores of Israelis were killed. Anger at Israel's military action in Gaza fueled a wave of attacks by extremists on Jewish targets across Europe.
At a Copenhagen synagogue.
4 hostiges
at a kosher
Jewish
grocery
supermarket
in eastern Paris.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Europe's Jewish diaspora home to Israel.
ישראל היא הבית של כל יהודי.
1,168 anti-Semitic incidents were reported in the UK in 2014, the highest annual total ever recorded. The total number fell in 2015, but the number of violent assaults rose. 3/4 of these incidents took place in London and Manchester, the 2 largest Jewish communities in the UK. We came to Prestwich, the heart of Manchester's Orthodox community, to find out if people here had felt this spike in anti-Semitism and how they felt they should respond to it.
Israel cannot afford to lose a war because it just won't exist.
The last spike in Europe, I told my wife it's time to go to Israel.
They're just targeting us when no one's got a political review on it. That's what that would like happen.
Yeah, that wasn't nice.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
You're anti-Semites!
In Manchester, during the 2014 conflict, pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian demonstrators clashed outside a shop selling cosmetics produced in an Israeli settlement.
It was like the Nazi stormtroopers.
There's no way that we, or any Jew that lives in the 21st century, is going to allow people to stop other people going to a Jewish shop. It's unacceptable. That's what happened 70 years ago. Shops in Germany, Kauf nicht bei Juden.
What were the slogans that were being chanted at that point that you found
offensive?
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
And calling us
means.
Nazis.
Our detractors would say it's legitimate to split off you being Jewish from support for Israel because they're attacking Israel. You can't separate the two. And when people start delegitimizing and saying Israel doesn't have the right to exist, we're saying that's anti-Semitic. That's not just anti-Israel.
So do you feel when Israel is criticised that it's a direct criticism of you as a Jew?
No. Israel should be criticised. It's not a perfect state.
Like any state.
Like any state. But, you know, it is held to a standard that is just unattainable.
If there's another issue that takes place in Israel, it's not a question of if, it's when. It's something going to happen in the UK.
The bombs are now beginning! There's racism everywhere, and I'm sure there's racism against Jewish people. That's different to us inciting racism, and that's different to campaigning against Israel, and campaigning is not anti-Semitic. The fact that that shop was targeted was because they're selling illegal settlement goods, and they need to separate the Jewish religion, the Jewish faith, from their politics.
You seem to have a very clear idea of a distinction between the two. But do you think some even very well-meaning people who are supporters of your cause can get a bit confused?
No, I don't. I think the people that are confusing it are the Zionists. You know, they're pushing more and more, frightening people into feeling that they're anti-Semitic.
There is real fear in Manchester's Jewish community that anti-Israel protest will find Jewish targets, and that anti-Zionism is just the new face of anti-Semitic racism. Moshe first was beaten up and left in a coma in September 2015. His father, Michael, believes he was targeted simply because he was Jewish.
Moshe screams out, "Stop, stop, leave him alone." So the guy turns around, takes a few steps over towards Moshe, punches Moshe in the face, and knocks him out cold, comes back to Moshe and kicks him in the head.
Just while he's lying unconscious on the floor?
Yeah.
As a dad of a Jewish son,
Yeah.
to have him targeted because of your religion in England in 2015. How does it make you feel?
I don't think these boys, they weren't out, they didn't, it's not like they got up that morning and said, you know, where are we going to find some Jewish boys to beat up? Or where are we even going to find anybody to beat up? You know? I don't think it was premeditated on that level. You know, they're not stormtroopers, they're not neo-Nazis. But they got drunk. They were aware of the fact that these boys were Jewish. Obviously, there's somewhere inside their brain an idea that Jewish people are somehow inferior and
they're to be bullied.
They're to be bullied. And that's what came out. So it's not an accident. That's what was inside of them. How did it get in there?
How did it get in there?
That's what's worrying.
King David High School in Prestwich hasn't reported any major anti-Semitic incidents, but it has boosted its already stringent security following attacks on Jewish institutions across Europe. Hello.
Can we clear your name? Is it Tharbit or Phoebe?
Phoebe.
Phoebe. Reception's on the left and they'll sort you out.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
The purpose of the fence, going around all the different parts, is?
Security.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is security. There are times when it's dangerous, when things were not kicked off in France.
Yeah.
So then we had security dogs and guard dogs, and that was...
Goodness, that sounds a bit frightening.
It was, but... So you can either choose to be scared, or you
Yeah.
can say, well, we're taking it seriously, and these
Yeah.
threats are real.
Yeah.
And once you're in here, it's safe. So yes, we've got terrorist alarms on top of the school building.
Just like signing at the end there.
Once you actually get through the fortress and make your way in, it just feels completely like any other normal high school. Apart from, of course, the Israeli flags. The sports houses are named after areas of Israel. Galil, Negev, Sharon and Yehuda.
I don't know why, but it just feels like a lot of people dislike Jews and that when it's anti-Semitism, it isn't because we're like a minority, it's purely because we're Jewish.
God, that must feel horrible.
Yeah. And didn't they once try and say after school, like if you walk into the Met, walk with a security guard? So they've done that. So that's why it's got all the things.
Do not pass.
Does that feel necessary to you?
Probably. This sort of stuff, not just anti-Semitism, antisocial behaviour stuff.
Right.
Around them on the Met as well, particularly. So it's probably necessary, yes.
Having the school so tied to Israel, can that be difficult for students who don't, say, agree with what Israel's policies are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can actually.
Yeah.
And I think because you see the correlations there between what Israel does and the rise in anti-Semitism as a result of that.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, maybe it's important for Jews to sometimes, the regular Jewish community, to sort of disassociate with every action that's taken by Israel in order to stop that correlation happening.
I work very hard at community cohesion, especially with the Muslim community. We've done interfaith work within their schools, they come to our school, joint charity projects. And that's really important, just to try and change that narrative, to show that the other is as normal and as lovely and as sweet and as pleasant as we hope to be.
Is there not a slight identity crisis when it comes to, yes, I'm Jewish and therefore I have a loyalty to the State of Israel, but don't confuse me with the State of Israel if it's doing something in my name that I don't necessarily agree with? It's quite a complicated identity to get your head round.
It's really complicated. Students don't want to be judged by the State of Israel. Teachers don't want to be judged by things that are going on because we're not citizens, we can't vote, we have no clout, and there is a tension.
At the end of the school day, Alana's mum, Francine, invited us back to their home for Shabbat dinner.
So are you happy with the school's attitude to security and all of that?
Yeah. I think parents just feel happier that there's extra set of eyes in case there's anything untoward.
Gosh, so you really feel it as a threat? I mean, it's something that you're thinking about a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Might there be a situation, even in the UK, where you'd be a little wary about identifying yourself as a Jewish person?
For example, when we were at the protest, when was it, Mum? And we went to the art protest, I didn't want to go. If you stood there, everyone then knows you're Jewish. I don't feel like it's safe in the middle of town, especially. If anything was going to happen, that's where something would happen.
So do you think the reason that there isn't more anti-Semitism felt by the Jewish community like yourself is because people can't identify you as Jewish? Like if they knew you were Jewish, you'd definitely be targeted for anti-Semitic incidents?
Yeah, 100%, we definitely would, 100%.
I went to one of the protests with my IDF t-shirt on, Israeli Defence Force t-shirt, you know, because I support the Israeli army, you know, these freedom fighters and heroes as far as I'm concerned. The Zionist thug at Boycott Kedem counter-protest, proudly wearing IDF child killer t-shirt. So that's what they call me, can you see? So that was the protest and they circulated this everywhere. I've lost about 4 stones since then. Israel is a tiny dot, generally surrounded by countries and people that would like to crush it and have it not exist. So therefore, under incredible difficult circumstances, they sometimes have to do things, legitimate things, within the course of a war that they wouldn't like to do. But
there must be some cases where you agree that criticism's like valid, like the use of white phosphorus in Gaza in 2009. Like that's been pretty roundly condemned by everybody. It's illegal. I mean, but so do you think there's any room for criticism of the Israeli military?
Very limited. I really do think very limited. Israel cannot afford to lose a war because it just won't exist. Vayhi erevi boker, yom hashi, b'chalu shemayim v'haaretz v'al savam, ki boshvat, mikol mata asher b'al alum sot.
Do you want me to
make me laugh?
No, do you want me to?
That's fine.
You were saying earlier, Francine, that you feared a point at which it would be safer to live in Israel than it would be to live in the UK, maybe for your kids at some point.
Well, in the future, yeah, but I'm saying we don't know, do we? We're hoping it never comes to that, but...
I fear for the future of this country and for the future of my grandchildren and any great-grandchildren I have. In fact, I've said to Andrew, I'd like you to emigrate in the future, but not till I'm dead, because I couldn't manage without you. I really feel that way. When it's at high festivals, the police come and stay outside the big synagogues.
And was it like that for you when you were growing up here?
Nothing. You walked the streets, you were safe.
What changed?
What changed? The world changed.
Are you worried about the future, Nathan?
I'm not. I'm optimistic. I genuinely think that it's a new generation, and it's a generation that's not so ideological. As long as coexistence exists, you spoke to Rabbi Rickman today, he's done led a lot of stuff on coexistence with other schools and interfaith work, and I think that gives hope for the future, doesn't it?
Czuję się po prostu patriotą.